Okay, we're all here. Thank you very much. Call the meeting into order at 6:32 p.m. In terms of the roll call, Kim, show the council as being all here with exception of Scott Cowan, who is excused because he's on fire duty.
Yes.
Okay, and then staff is here as well. So any changes or additions to the agenda by anybody? Any requests? If not, we have a consent agenda with 2 items: city council meeting minutes of August 11th and the report of accounts payable. What's your pleasure, council?
Make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as proposed.
Okay. Do I have a second? I have a motion from John and a second from Scott McPhee. Any comments, questions? If not, use your tabs lower right for yes or no on voting, please. Okay, I'm missing one. John, you voting?
Yeah, right
There
there.
we go.
Yeah.
I got him. 4.
Okay, we got it. Motion
5.
carried.
4.
And for those guests among us, if you don't already have this at your disposal, if you click on participants at your lower screen, it'll give you a list of folks that are on, and also shows you how we are voting with the symbols on the lower part of that docket or that legend. And it also has a raise hand symbol. If you'd like to speak, and we'll get into public comments here later, you can use that, or I'll call for you. All right, moving on. Guest presentations. Linn County Sheriff's Office, and we're assuming that Brad is not here, given the fires going on. So are there any questions from council regarding the sheriff's report that we received? Hearing none, we're going to move on to public comment section. We have 2 guests. I'm assuming maybe somebody might want to speak to us. I'm kind of hoping.
No, Erica and Eric are on from our architects for the fire station, so they're going to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, very good. So thank you. So I'm assuming we have no guests tonight. Nobody on phone nor visual, so I'll move forward. Council member and staff comments. Begin that where I've asked Kevin to kind of give us an overview of what he knows about the fire situation surrounding us. So Kevin, you want to do that? Trying to load it.
Is Kevin speaking? I'm unable to hear him.
I don't think he is. Kevin, you speaking?
Okay, I am now. We forgot to unmute. All right. So
Great comments you were making so far, Kevin.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We have 2. The majority of the smoke that we're seeing in our areas are from the 2 fires that you can see outlined here on my screen. So this one on the right of your screen is the Lion's Head fire. That was at about 20-some thousand acres. It is probably close to doubled in size, I would imagine. The other one was the Beachy Creek fire. Janelle overrode me.
On their view.
This was the Beachy Creek fire. It was about 513 acres, right about in this area this time yesterday. I would estimate that's probably about 50,000 acres now. You can see Mill City and Lyons and Gates have taken the brunt of it. It is on both sides of the Sandy Am. I don't know how, seen some video from last night, early this morning, along 22, a lot of buildings and stuff on fire. Haven't heard anything with regards to the mills and stuff in that area, but there's definitely fire in that area right now. So I was telling Janelle, it's not showing right now, but they were showing where the areas were, and you can see this is actual live data that they're getting off of satellite views showing where there's fire. So it's actually moved into Clackamas County as well. But it's right on the border of Silver Creek Falls. You can see most of the fire in these type of wind events are going to follow the canyons down, and the waterways and stuff get kind of a chimney effect from it. And that's where most of the smoke is. Staten, Sublimity, and Almsville are under level 2 evacuation. I do not expect we will see any impact other than the smoke from here. A lot of heavy ash. We shouldn't see, you can see spotting in a fire like this in a high wind event 10 to 15 miles sometimes. So even with that, by the time it hits the valley floor, it will run. There's just not going to be, there's not heavy enough fuels to see anything carry that would really cause any concern. You know, our biggest concern is in our own neighborhood if we get something going, whether it's a structure or anything else during high winds and low humidity. So that's where most of this is coming from. There's also a fire burning south, and south of that in the Eugene Springfield area, it went through, it's in the McKenzie drainage. Lynn County has updated their evacuations tonight. So they've actually shown Detroit, Idana, Gates, Mill Cities, Lyons, and McCauley Mountain are all level 3s leaving out. I'll give a little bit about that here in a minute for you. Upper Calapooya Road, Holly areas, area north of 226, east of Scioto Road, area east of Cascadia along Highway 20 corridor, and then they're considering the Crawfordsville. So I don't know if any of you remember maybe the B&B complex fire. If you were here, that would have been about 15 years ago. I was chief at Albany at the time. Very similar area. One of the reasons we've probably seen a lot of growth in this area is this is all, at least on the eastern edge of the Beachy, that is a lot of the area where there was previous fire from the B&B complex, a lot of down timber. When the B&B complex was going, we had an east wind event that brought it over into the Marion area. We were concerned once we came out of that, went to a north, that it would come south. A lot of timber beetle kill area previously in there, so I imagine that's still in there. So I don't know if there's something burning along Highway 20 here that's created the level 2 with Lynn County, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're concerned that if we see this, when it switches from a primarily east northeast event to a north event, they're concerned about rapid fire spread coming south. So that could be that, or, and I was trying to pull up the fire weather forecast for the next 2 days. It could also be if we get a south wind event now with what's going on here in the McKenzie, that could also carry up into that area. So that's probably why we're seeing some of the level 2 stuff. I thought I'd just share with you because someone asked earlier, what do the levels mean? So it's essentially, it's ready, set, go. So level 1 is be ready. You should be always in that case, even, you know, if you're in a wildland area, pre-plan and stuff. And again, we're not in one of those areas that you would expect. Level 2 means be set. So you should have everything loaded, ready to go at a moment's notice. Ideally, you voluntarily relocate before you get that to an outside the affected area. It gives you some time to get your animals and important things. The evacuation go means now. So if you haven't already prepared, it is get up and go. You don't stop and take anything other than make sure you have yourself and your family and you get to safety. And I have a feeling that what we'll probably hear is looking at how quickly that blew up last night. I wouldn't be surprised if, I don't think that there was many areas that went to a level 1, 2. I think they went right to level 3 in probably in the Mill City and Gates area last night. So, and some of those areas. So that's what I know at this point. I will tell you, Albany is upstaffed. They have additional vehicles. They do have incident calls up there. I believe Scott is on this fire. I'm not sure. He could be. I'm not sure if Shane said he got sent down to the Holiday, which is down here at McKenzie, or if he was there. But they did send units code 3 this morning when they started hitting Mill City and stuff. for immediate assistance on that fire. So Albany's got crews up there, but all the stations are staffed. They have extra staffing as well at their stations. So we're covered well in our area at this point. But limited resources throughout the state. So if anything big breaks, it's pretty much this way from here down through Southern California. So
ODOT shows Highway 20 closed also from west of Tombstone all the way down to intersection 126 due to down power lines.
yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if they got down lines if they have some fires up in that area.
Right.
The other thing that's not uncommon in this heavy of smoke conditions, especially off of your main power, your high voltage lines, you will see a ground to arc situation with the smoke. So the carbon in the air and the smoke, especially on the main transmission lines, the VPA lines, when you get close to the fire, a lot of times they'll go ground. So they probably have already shut those lines off up in those areas. But if it caught them, you can get that. So on your higher voltage lines, that's always a concern and a possibility, along with the winds.
Okay.
And the spotting out ahead of them is their biggest challenge with the wind-driven fires.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Anything else from staff or council? I see we had somebody join us. Hans, are you on the fire station, or are you a guest?
Hans is with the architect.
Okay, so still, I just want to make sure we didn't have somebody in the public coming in at the last minute who wanted to speak. Okay, then moving on to city manager reports, plural.
So the only thing that we have is the project update. So just thought I would share with you a couple of things that are occurring. One, MEI, who has been here for a while, was recently purchased by a company based out of Germany, RENA, and they have opened or taken over. Sounds like most of the staff here at the facility is staff that was with MEI, but it is now RENA's North America headquarters. So you saw what we put out, and you see the press release there. Freightliner Northwest is also open, and I think today was their opening day for them. Interesting thing, so Freightliner Northwest is actually owned by Gordon Truck Centers. Gordon Truck Centers owns truck dealerships in Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii. And if you recall, that was a former yard for Gordon Trucking. So they had not only the sales and repair business, but they also had their trucking company. They sold the trucking company a number of years ago. They have stopped by and talked with the manager here. They're excited about the location. They're kind of waiting to see what happens. But right now it's parts, maintenance and repair there. Depending what goes on, they are still leasing parking out for others. They're not planning on any sales. There's some new trucks there for display, but they're not. All the sales is taken out of Coburg. But they're hopeful, and they said that they could see some significant expansion here, and it kind of will depend on what they see business-wise. The other thing I just wanted to make you aware, Atera Systems, their site is vacant, and haven't been able to find much out. But their contact information now on their website shows Santa Cruz, California. So I would find it odd if they moved manufacturing stuff down there, but I guess you never know on that.
I would be curious to hear what happened there. I've visited with them 2 or 3 times, and they're a very, very enthusiastic organization. And they were basically building small, force-type fire rigs and selling this new fire retardant, not retardant, I forget what they call it, but anyway, okay. Curious to know what happened there. Go ahead, what else?
Okay, I'm going to let Janelle cover the remaining projects.
So in August, we found out that a resident had tripped and became injured on a sidewalk on Alexander. So, and of course the question came up, who's liable? Who's responsible for that? So Per our code, the owner or owners of land adjoining any street in the city shall be liable to any person suffering injury by reason of any defect in the sidewalks in front of the land. So, following what the process outlined in our code, we sent a letter to the property owner and notified them of their responsibility to fix the issue. We're really not in the middle of any insurance discussions between the injured party and the property owner, but we do have an obligation to notify and make sure it gets fixed once we're aware of the problem. So in the course of this, the question's been asked, well, what is a defective sidewalk and what isn't? So ADA guidelines say a 1/4 inch, you can't have more than a 1/4 inch offset in the sidewalk, and then you also have to meet ADA slopes. So that's kind of the threshold for what is and isn't considered a hazard, tripping hazard on a sidewalk. So just wanted to keep you in the loop on what was going on that. As we've discussed previously, there are certainly other areas in the city that may have more severe elevation differences than this particular location, but this is where someone was injured, so it is one that we are addressing. The Woods Road.
Janelle, can I go back really quick? The sidewalk.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the sidewalk. So I've noticed that in a few different areas throughout town. Do we ever look into that? Do we have everybody walk the sidewalks? How do we handle that as a city?
So our code says when we become aware of it, we need to address it. We don't have a process currently for going out and looking for issues, but there have been times we've become aware of it and we've notified property owners. We certainly could take a harder look throughout inspecting sidewalks in the city. It's not something we have put the staff resources toward at this point. But if we receive a complaint, even if there's not an injury, then we will follow up on it.
Okay.
It doesn't require an injury to get addressed.
Okay, that sounds great. Now, one more question. I'll ask this. I ask this once in a while, but Alexander Lane, next to the park there, to the west side of the park, there's that mailbox there. Have we looked into that at all as far as getting that moved or?
Well, there are multiple places along Alexander Lane and Millersburg Drive, maybe some others, but those are the two that come to mind, where you'll have that situation where you have mailboxes in the sidewalk and we don't have the clear space around them that we would if they were being constructed to the standards today. Mm-hmm. We have not yet embarked on a project to try to address those either. However, we have discussed it. It's just not something that we would need to put together a project to go. We might have to get right of way in certain locations, and that's probably why they are the way they are right now. Look at grouping mailboxes potentially. I think we discussed that a while back as well. So we haven't done anything more with that yet, but that's what we would need to do.
Okay.
I would like to see us pursue this in a longer term approach, but to work with the post office and get mailbox pods throughout town and get rid of the individual mailboxes. Albany's got the same problem throughout the older districts in town, and the newer developments have the mailbox pods, which might be inconvenient for somebody who has to walk 2 blocks, but it's still the right way to go for the post office as well as for the safety of our and those on our sidewalks. Many of our sidewalks are not ADA accessible because of those mailboxes. Then you couple that with the garbage cans going in on Mondays. So I guess I'd like us to earmark this for a future project and review how we might pursue that, engage the city and the discussion and post office and propose that we pursue the mailbox pods down the road. It's a big deal throughout the town. The second item that Scott brought up, and the first item he brought up regarding, had we done a survey, I started that myself as I was walking the town and I lost track. It is many sidewalks, especially those in those areas of 10 years or older. And I'm concerned about it. I'm concerned that many of us don't recognize that as being our problem as individual landowners, and we'll get surprised someday when they find out that it isn't, or get sued or whatever. So I'm not comfortable about this, but I'm not sure what else to do about it. I don't disagree with Janelle. when the approach is being taken. But I guess I'm concerned that if we do nothing but kind of put our blindfolders on and wait somebody comes knocking on our door, I think we could do more. I don't know what it is though. I don't think I'm not really answering the question. I'm just identifying I think it's a bigger issue than many of us realize, especially through Sweetwater and where I live, and maybe some of the Umpqua areas as well. Do you have that problem? Sidewalks coming up.
No, I absolutely agree with that. I definitely see that in the older about 10 years area, even on the east side of the park there. And I almost think instead of us maybe sending a city employee around, especially at this point, is what if we just put an informational flyer like in the water bill, just to let people know. Maybe we'll have some fixed at that point. I know a lot of people don't think it's part of their property, or it's the city's job for that. So
I agree.
Yeah, that's actually what I was going to ask if might be a good first step. We have put things out about people's responsibility for the right-of-way, and sidewalks were a part of that, but we haven't specifically highlighted you're responsible and liable if somebody trips on your foot. Yeah, and so we could do that along with the information that we shared on what the requirements are.
Okay. No, that sounds great. And then Jim, I agree with you as far as we should look into pause. I know we talked about that. That particular mailbox there is probably one of the most concerning to me just because of its location. There's a fence on one side. It's straight to the road. It's right next to the park. The park has a ditch there too. So there's nowhere to go except for out in the actual street there. So it's not like I can go partially into somebody's lawn and get past them. So that particular mailbox pod, there's no other street to go on until I get past that either. So
how close is that to the crosswalk?
Oh, it's on the other side of the park. This is heading from the park on Alexander, be heading west, so towards me, towards
okay. All right, fair enough.
Yeah, so there's a ditch there. Then there's a fence on that one property, and that's where the mailbox pod's at. So there's nowhere to go past that. So
yeah, you really can't fit a bicycle in between the two.
Mm-mm.
Unless
Let alone
you're really
a wheelchair or anything else. Yeah.
We have a fair amount of people on wheelchair who are trying to take walks and so forth, and we actually had one turnover one day in that area for a different reason totally. We want to belabor that, but my point being is we make it difficult for people in wheelchairs in some areas of our town, and I would like to see us pursue it down the road.
PDA opens them up.
Okay, anything else? Janelle, what's your next one?
Okay, so the Woods Road project has started. You may have seen last week they were doing ditch cleaning, doing some prep work. The schedule right now is to do the grind and inlay on Thursday and do the final paving on Friday. But the current conditions may impact that because the contractor has employees who are impacted by the fires and the working conditions aren't great. However, he just told me that is still the plan. So that's where we're at with the Woods Road project. All the folks who live along there, own property along there, have been contacted and are aware of what's going on. Do you guys have any questions on that project?
No.
Okay. Oops, I forgot to put the slide. The crack sealing project, I didn't put on the slide, but in the memo was a map of the streets that will be in this year's crack sealing. The area west of the park and south of the park really are where we're talking about. That work is scheduled for September 18th, and if they need an additional day, they'll come back on the 25th. If that changes, we'll put that information out. And then the Pearland Fine Estates project, which is located south of Alexander Lane, is underway. DRX is the contractor. They're completing the sewer infrastructure, and they began the water infrastructure last week. They have connections in both Woods Road and Alexander Lane to those systems. And once they're they're pretty much out of those roads right now. They have temporary paving down. They will come back and do their final patching when they're doing their final paving, but the remainder there will be mainly on site until they finish out that intersection at Alexander. Are there any questions on any of the projects?
we're gonna do Crooks Creek cleaning, say that real fast, this month?
Probably. I need to contact, Justin with Poe and see what their availability is. We've definitely not wanted to do anything that involves any equipment right now, but we will still try to get that in.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Kevin, do you see he has other items?
Not under this, no.
Okay. Janelle, I didn't mean to cut you off. You have more to go?
No, I was saying no other items.
Okay. Forrest, do you have anything?
No, sir.
No? All right, moving to new business, fire station project update.
All right, I will go over a couple of slides and then we'll have Erica, Eric, and Hans, whoever is going to speak with them. I think they'll mostly be Eric. But so we're continuing on with the fire station project. The floor plan has been pretty much worked out. It's what you see here. This version is mirrored or flipped, however you want to think about that, from the version we showed you previously, with the bays on the left, which would be the west side. But otherwise, this remains unchanged from what you saw last. I think last update we gave you, we talked about the geotechnical investigation and the recommendations. At this point, after some follow-up meetings between the architect and the geotech and the structural engineer, it's been determined that soil stabilization is not necessary. A mat foundation is recommended. And I think when we get our first cost estimate here, we'll have some more information on how the cost for a mat foundation compares to a foundation you might design if you weren't considering any seismic movement. But we have moved past the thought that the more costly deep soil stabilization might be necessary. So we won't be going down that road. The site and road, the new access road off of Old Salem Road is being conceptually designed. We're looking at a multi-use path in place of sidewalks and bike lanes on the north and east sides. And I don't have a picture to show you of that tonight, but we will pretty soon. The access road design will need to accommodate vehicles associated with potential future industry as well as fire apparatus. So we're looking at a lowboy and making sure that the vertical curves work for that as well as the horizontal curves. And then the location and finished floor of the building will be set based on the required driveway slopes. So once that all comes together and we have it on the site to show you, we'll get something off that you can take a look at. But it's still in the same general location that we've shown you before. And then the exterior appearance, and this is where the architects will jump in as soon as I pull the pictures up. So the comments from the August council meeting were incorporated. There's an additional option, which I'll let Eric explain, with some horizontal panels. And then once we get to a point where council's comfortable with it, we can discuss how we'll share that with a wider audience in the community on the website and social media. So Eric or Erica or Hans, whoever's going to talk, go ahead.
This is Eric. Erica, I wanted to make sure you had a chance to follow up with Janelle's introduction there. Do you have anything to add on site plan, Erica?
No, I think that pretty well covers it. Hello, welcome. I meant to make our last meeting and I had a last minute conflict, so I apologize. But yeah, Janelle, I think covered it really well, what we're thinking about. Conceptually, everything's pretty nailed down. We just have to wrap up the specifics once we figure out exactly how that road is going to slope down from Old Salem Road down into this area. So Eric's got the building orientation updated here. So now you see the living quarters on the east side of the building and the apparatus bay on the west. So that's the biggest change from the previous versions of this that you've seen, but I'll let him dive into the design.
Hey, thanks, Erica. When we presented last month, we had two options. One was a gabled option, or a long wide gable, kind of a barn and a shed roof option, and they both had brick at the around the base of the building. The solid areas were brick. There were comments that, and the idea was that was in keeping with Albany's Station 11, and there were comments that perhaps it wasn't in keeping with Millersburg City Hall, that the City Hall was less historic than was the Station 11, and in fact maybe the brick was perhaps old-fashioned, was even mentioned. There's also the interest. There was an interest and motivation to establish a Millersburg vocabulary in keeping with the City Hall that is establishing an aesthetic for the industrial and commercial district that we're placing this project in, and which is an entrance gateway to the city. So this is the same shape as the image with the brick, but instead we've brought in metal panel in keeping with City Hall. There's two shades of metal panel, and there's two orientations of metal panel. On the corners where we had brick, we're proposing a wide corrugation. It's a 4-inch corrugation. It's called AE span box rib. We have some images to show later of that. It's a highly textural, industrial, commercial look. It has a really, it's very durable. It's a heavy gauge and has a factory pre-finish. It's, for all intents and purposes, permanent finish on it. On the corner here, we've got the day room. These corners, and in the back, there's the meeting room. Those corners that were brick are now this horizontal, highly textured panel. The upper gables of these sheds are a vertical standing seam or a ribbed metal panel, and the corners are darker metal, and the upper gables are light metal. That light metal vertical wraps down around toward the entry there. There's the entry overhang with the column. The apparatus bay is the same vertical metal panel, standing seam or a ribbed panel, and it's dark to set off that volume of the apparatus bay. The feet of the apparatus bay around the openings at 4 feet is a precast concrete panel. There's a lot of use there. Even as durable as the heavy gauge metal panel is, those openings are protected by precast concrete. On the right, we have indicated possible signage. It says simply Millersburg. There's possibility for a lot more words and titles and numbers on that. And I think we're imagining there's probably 4 positions for the signage. It could go across the front of the apparatus bay, could be next to the front door in the white paneled area or light colored paneled area. There where it says Millersburg, and we're also considering a signage on a monument, a low monument that would be toward the front of the project. This may be in keeping with other projects, businesses in the locale. There was some comments from staff that perhaps maybe that this entrance was a little dry, perhaps a little stark, or depending on your opinion, maybe not. But so I went ahead and did a second option and this is from a little different angle. This is as you're coming into the walk up to the entrance of the station. We can see the apparatus bay at the left. There's that concrete leg and that darker vertical panel. This brings in a different window shape than the vertical window shapes for the office and for the day room, and brings in a warm phenolic panel next to the front door and a seat there. Some of these elements we might want to, like the seat next to the front door, might be nice to have on the previous option too. We've had a chance to look at maybe some extra landscaping in this concrete apron that provides the approach to the the station. So let's see if there's, yeah, this one has the heavy gauge box rib panel, but it has a little bit of a lighter gauge to create a more horizontal layered look around the office window and the day window. It has the vertical standing seam that goes around the gables, the lighter color under the eave at the top. I guess the only other comment was that Kevin and Janelle had wondered if there was a possibility for any some block, CMU, some split face block. And in fact, maybe Janelle, we return to the previous image that corner mass on the meeting room and the day room could be a concrete block, could be split face concrete block. If we are looking for a even more durable material, that's another option to keep in mind. Let's see, Erica, you have the images of the AE span metal panel. Maybe we could share Erica's screen. Are we gonna be able to do that?
Too fast on the gun there. All right. So I think this is the box rib you were thinking about, Eric?
It is. These are not the sexiest images, but it does show this horizontal box rib down low around the entrance of this commercial building. It shows a solid mass with this highly textured horizontal box rib, different color. It's just to give you a sense of the size of those recesses in that corrugation. The next image is a commercial facility. This shows that vertical metal panel. These are these sort of natural colors, muted grays. That would be the metal that would be on the upper gables and along the front of the around the entrance. The next image shows it's a winery, but it shows sort of, I think, a good mix of neutral colors. It shows that deep textural box rib and the vertical aspect here. But I thought that was it represented some of those different massing and textures that we are looking for on the fire station project. And with that, open it up to comments, questions, please.
Council, comments, Council?
I think it looks good.
Kevin or Janelle, you had a discussion around block. Could you want to expand upon that? No?
Janelle, would you like to talk about yours and Kevin, or Kevin, would you?
You guys are muted.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if I remember the discussion on the brick, and we couldn't remember if Scott or someone else maybe mentioned putting the corners and possibly block in a split place blocking. We couldn't recall.
We definitely remembered the discussion around the panels and making it look more like City Hall. We thought, since we were talking with Eric about it, it would be good to maybe mention and just see if that's something that you're not interested in, then we can just rule it out and move forward. But if it is something we didn't want to have moved on and not giving you a chance to consider it, if you were thinking about it.
Okay.
I personally like how it looks now. I think it looks good with the metal and the addition of the tree. I actually like it without the trees in the middle of all the concrete for a couple of reasons. I think it's a building that you want to keep really functional, and it seems like a maintenance nightmare with trees in the middle of all that. I think it looks really clean the way it is.
I definitely like first one.
Got your Your microphone.
Yeah, somebody else is on there. There we go. Yeah, I like the first one better here than the second one that you showed there. I know you only showed the entryway. I think this looks clean, especially without those trees there. So I'd go with Dave on keeping those trees out of there. So
We may not be able to do that, so keep in mind our new standard coming in play.
okay, so if we have to do trees, I guess we can find a place to put them. But we don't want to put them in there as a maintenance nightmare either, especially with the popping sidewalks up or concrete up like we were just talking about. So as long as we bear that in mind, then yeah, no, it's fine.
We'll look at the landscaping even more going forward. Stuff on that. Okay, wait for that.
I was gonna say, is there a way to keep them? I mean, if you're gonna put trees in, is there a way to keep them more towards like the grass over to the right and just off of all the concrete and asphalt in the middle, where leaves are gonna blow over from the doors and all that?
Well, there's we can definitely keep that. There are shading and parking areas that we're going to be doing overall landscaping.
So you're echoing. I guess I am.
Yeah, so Dave can mute. And Forrest, we're getting
Yes.
feedback from one of you.
Okay, I'll mute me.
Well, I can't run a meeting if I'm mute.
So let's see if that's any better.
I think it's
Hey, this is Eric. I think, that apron does not need trees. I think that was an attempt at perhaps softening up that area. When I drew that, and the result was, I thought it looked pretty busy. It's really not that big of an area. There will be plenty of spots for trees and landscaping elsewhere. So that, I think we can take care of landscaping in a sort of more elegant fashion. Thanks.
I have two questions. Will the colors of this building be similar to or same as City Hall, or is there something else in mind?
I think right now the intent is the colors you're seeing there.
That's right, Kevin. I think it would, it tends toward the City Hall look, but it it's establishing an aesthetic and a look for this area. It's not aping the City Hall. It's having a little bit of its own look.
Okay. I should be quiet. I like it, but it doesn't reach out and grab me. So, and I guess I was thinking the colors would be something similar to City Hall, which would really tie it together. However, I am in absolutely no position to dictate or suggest a change. I'm not an architect, and I really struggle in this area, so I will go with your lead very easily.
I think you got to remember the size that thing's going to be with how tall the apparatus bay is. It's going to be a big building.
That's true. Which takes me to my second question. I know this is conceptual probably for the parking area, but will we have enough parking stalls to accommodate whoever's in that conference room?
Yeah,
Yes, there
so
is.
The idea is that most of the parking will actually be on the north side of the building, so behind the meeting room.
Perfect. Okay.
The chief wanted to make sure we had some parking at the front of the building so that folks don't block the apparatus bay when they're there in an emergency, but predominantly the parking will be on the north side of the building.
Perfect response. Thank you. Great. Questions or comments? Anybody else? Are we ready to buy this the way they're showing it?
I just have one more quick question. This is not about the design, but it's just I noticed that you spec'd out an ASC panel. Are we going to spec it to their panel only, or is it something that's going to be more open? I only mention that because I know we have metal companies that make similar products to this that are more localized to us.
It's not proprietary in any way. It's a basis of design, and we'd love to have local manufacturers produce this this contour, it is done by multiple manufacturers.
Okay, perfect. All right, great.
Metal panel is a great one to get local companies involved in. We just as architects tend to default to AEP span because they're national and they have a lot of pretty pictures on their website, but it's definitely a product in particular that is fairly easy to source from a much more local manufacturer.
Okay, perfect. I just want to make sure that was the case because I know how those specs work, and sometimes you can spec those to the point nobody else can even come into it. So that's why I asked that question. Okay.
Very
And
good.
when we spec materials in general, the intent is to have options, not pick one proprietary system, unless there's a real strong reason why they are the only one that we would want to accept. So, yeah.
John, you're awful quiet.
I think it looks good. I agree with the no trees in the middle, out in front. Move them off to the side, but I think it looks awesome. I love the metal.
Good.
And Mayor, I would just point out that the majority of our building is a painted surface, and it hasn't always been brown.
Okay, I'm fine. Really, I'm fine. Like I said, I hesitate to bring that up, but I'm really okay with it.
I personally dig the color. I think it's cool.
I'm sorry, Dave?
I personally dig the color, the shading of it. It's cool.
Good. So I think we have a consensus among all of us. This is a go. Have I had that correct?
Yep.
Yep.
All right.
That makes our job a lot easier when we get consensus like that. That's good. I like that.
It's not always as easy, though. Okay.
So, Mayor, just a follow-up. So there's a consensus on this. Are you comfortable with this going out to the community, and do you want feedback from them on it?
How much time do we have?
You mean before we need a final decision?
Before we move forward, without holding up the project, how much time do we have for public input without impacting schedule?
I'll let Erica answer that.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about that. So our goal is to have permit drawings ready for the end of the year. That being said, I think we probably want to take another week or so to really get something ready for the general public and have a good complete package. Let's see, it is September. If we had comments back from the public in mid-October, assuming that there's not going to be substantial changes from those, right? So assuming that it's minor tweaks, it's not a wholesale redesign of the appearance of this, I think that's reasonable.
So would it make sense to seek public input such that we would have it available at the next council meeting to determine what, if any, changes we might want to make as a result of that feedback? That make sense?
That makes sense, that we get you guys something in probably next week to send out to the public, that then at your next council meeting, I would assume that's a month from now, they have the opportunity to comment on.
My reason being, I wouldn't want to jump through hoops on public comments unless the council had weighed in on those comments and everybody agreed with the proposed changes. So I don't know, Janelle, Kevin, am I off track here? Any other thoughts?
No, I was just curious if you wanted to just put out and say, this is where council is leaning. I think I would let them know that, this is where council's leaning so that they get an idea that.
We might want to think about how we put it out, share a picture, maybe a paragraph that says, here are the things that went into the consideration for the exterior appearance and
maintenance.
Yeah, maintenance and all of these things. And whether you want to have a statement like, we want your feedback, tell us what you think, or more of just, hey, this is what we're planning to do. Because if we just open it up for complete open-ended feedback, that may not yield the most useful comments. Maybe it will.
Your point's well taken. Council, what do you think?
I think you put it out there and say this is the design type thing, and don't really ask any questions and see what people start yelling and screaming about.
I agree, Dave. That's great.
Yeah, I actually like that. It's problem is you put it out there and say, what's the feedback? You're gonna get one person who says one thing, one person says the exact opposite. And if you don't listen to them, they act like you're not listening to them. So yeah, I
support that approach as well. That way, if you get somebody who really screams and has an issue, we can listen to it, but it might not stir up a whole lot of nebulous stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that everybody could just love it, or there's a chance that everybody will not like the same thing.
I predict they'll be excited we're finally getting here. I hope.
Right.
Well, we're going to have the old timers that say, why don't you use the old station?
I'm an old timer. I'm not saying that.
I'm talking about the real old timers out here.
Okay.
Yeah, well,
making everybody
one still standing in an earthquake.
Yeah, I get it. Trust me, I get it.
I'm hoping that the level of enthusiasm we had on this whole project 2+ years ago still exists. I mean, think about, this was an overwhelming positive response to make this happen, and we're doing it. And yeah, we've increased a lot since then in terms of our population, but the core people are still here. I just think they'll be happy to see we're doing it and getting it done.
I agree. I think there's so much support behind bringing the station out here itself. The fact that we're going to put another very nice looking building out that the city will own, I think everybody will be happy about, really.
So can we just do that then? Keep it simple?
Yeah.
Good.
Given the response we've had to council meetings and the land use code, I would not expect a lot of comments.
Yeah.
And we can chat at Thursday's design meeting at exactly what we think that package needs to look like.
It would be nice. It would be still, I think, might be nice to get it all done so that if there are any issues that have come up, we can still handle them at our council meetings in October. I wouldn't expect anybody. That's October 13th. So Kevin, does that make, and Janelle, that makes sense just to try and target for everything done by then? And
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Good. Very good. Awesome. Thanks for being here and being part of this and for all your good work. We ready to go next topic? All right. Adoption of board. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. We just need to switch the sharing back real quick.
Okay. The next two items get pretty deep, so hope we can get through them efficiently.
All right, so the first item is adoption of ordinances updating our municipal code. So we've been working on reviewing our municipal code and other chapters that need to be needed for updates. And while looking for a code reference here a week or so ago, we became aware that during our September 2019 meeting, there was an action taken that actually to add some language to Title 13 to address abandoned vehicles, we actually removed some language as well that was repealed that we didn't catch at the time. So the documents on Title 13 would put that back in, those that we had lost during the adoption of that previous language, and address some updates that we felt would be beneficial and propose language so that we could have for in the future because of that inadvertent deletion, I should say. So, and then we had some minor updates to Title 14. One of the biggest things there was to change the language from Linn County Road Construction Standards, which is inconsistent with our current adopted Albany construction standards. So Janelle and I are both available for questions. Hopefully we sent out, you saw the clean version that we sent to you in the packet. And then I also sent you version with just notes you should have got Friday or today. If you didn't get your email over the weekend, showing what the additions were. There was one minor area that we missed on removing an old reference on towing of vehicles, and that has been removed from the proposed language. So there shouldn't. So that would be corrected from what was in your current version. That was in section, or Janelle is pulling it up.
That was down right there.
Yep, it's almost to the end. Let's keep going. Section 4 right there. Go back up one. So right here on sub 4 above, right in there was a, I believe was the reference where the reference was, and we removed that reference to an ordinance. It was an old reference to an ordinance from the community we were using as a model. Any questions on Title 13? I could be happy to answer if, and then Janelle for any on Title 14.
We all read it, right? Any questions, comments? If not, I would like a motion to approve ordinance number 176-20.
So moved.
It's not going to cut it, Dave.
The motion is on the screen if anyone would like to read it. Actually, there's two separate motions.
I move to adopt ordinance 176-20, updating chapter 13, vehicles and traffic of the Millersburg Municipal Code and declaring an emergency. I also move to adopt ordinance.
No, that stop right there. That's yep, perfect.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion from Dave and a second from Scott. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do I have any comments or concerns or questions from anybody?
Now I have to read it to you folks.
Aha, this is good even time. Go ahead.
Yes. An ordinance amending Millersburg Municipal Code Title 13, whereas the city of Millersburg has jurisdiction and desires to have orderly and safe use of and access to city streets and rights of way, while also providing for orderly public use and safe vehicle operations and safe parking of motor vehicles. And whereas this ordinance establishes regulations to provide for the orderly and safe use of and access to city streets and rights of way, while also providing for the orderly public use and safe parking of motor vehicles within the city of Millersburg. And now, therefore, the people of the city of Millersburg do ordain as follows. Millersburg Municipal Code Title 13 is hereby adopted, and furthermore, Millersburg Municipal Code chapters 13.10, 13.20, and 13.30 are hereby repealed and replaced by Millersburg Municipal Code Title 13, which is attached to this ordinance. Furthermore, the council declares an emergency for the health, safety, and welfare of its citizens, and thus declares this ordinance immediately effective upon its passage and signing. Passed by the council's 8th day of September 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. I'm reluctant to say this, but I'm going to. This all is hinged upon people observing and reporting to City Hall about an infringement or an inappropriate action, but it also gives obviously the tools for the deputy to follow through with something he observes as well. Point being is there's a lot of stuff going out there all the time that won't get reported unless a neighbor actually complains about it, at which time staff will get engaged with law enforcement or write letters or whatever, which I don't think is any different than in any other city. It's just sometimes it's kind of frustrating. I probably didn't need to say that, but it's something I witness constantly, and I get people pushing me constantly about, well, why isn't somebody doing something here? So it's up to our neighborhoods to rise up and say something when they have a concern or something out of place.
Mayor, I would just point out also that there is a lot of things in here that they don't report to us, that it would be things that would be reported to law enforcement directly.
That's correct. I understand. That's understand. So, okay. If there's no other comment, I would ask that we vote using the yes or no signs down below. And you guess you're waiting on me. Okay, so it's motion carried. Thank you. Moving on.
Move to adopt ordinance 177-20, updating chapter 14, streets and sidewalks.
Second.
A motion from Dave, second from Scott. Any continued dialogue, discussion, or questions? If not, those in favor, please say aye or no. Please use your.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, yes, Forrest, go ahead and read your script. I'm sorry.
Ordinance number 177-20, an ordinance amending Millersburg Municipal Code Title 14, whereas the city of Millersburg has jurisdiction and exercises regulatory control over all public rights of way within the city under the authority of the city charter and state law, and whereas the city of Millersburg desires to protect the health and safety of the public within the public rights of way, and whereas the city of Millersburg desires to preserve the integrity of facilities within the public rights of way through the regulation of activities and work, and whereas the city of Millersburg desires to facilitate the orderly conduct of work within the public rights of way and set forth uniform requirements for work. Now therefore, the people of the city of Millersburg do ordain as follows. Millersburg Municipal Code chapters 14.11, 14.12, 14.16, and 14.28 are hereby adopted. And furthermore, Millersburg Municipal Code chapters 14.20 and 14.40 are hereby repealed. And furthermore, Millersburg Municipal Code section 14.30.010 is hereby repealed and replaced with the following. Quote, it is the duty of all owners of land adjoining any street or sidewalk or right-of-way to the city to conform with the requirements of Millersburg Municipal Code section 7.30.130 for maintenance of vegetation. This ordinance becomes effective 30 days from the date of passage, passed by the council this 8th day of September 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Forrest. If there's no other discussion, go ahead and please vote, and you all have, so this is carried as well. Thank you. Next topic, traffic calming program considerations. Kevin, you cover this one?
Janelle is.
Janelle, okay.
All right, so there's a lot of information that we could have shared here. There's a little bit different information on the slides than was in the staff report, just to try to cover it. So first, why are we even bringing this up? Staff regularly receive complaints of speeding and requests from residents for stop signs and speed bumps in the neighborhoods, and I think many of you have heard those as well. As residential growth continues, the frequency of these types of complaints and requests has increased. We would like to make sure that council's in agreement with the current level of response, the way we're handling these concerns and complaints, or if you feel a different response is needed. Now, the biggest thing we get questions or requests for are stop signs and speed bumps. But that's not, the purpose of that request is really to address a speeding issue. So currently, when we receive a report of speeding, we collect the information, inform Lynn County Sheriff's Office, and request they pay extra attention to that area. And I think you're all already aware of our process. I just wanted to go over it. At times, we request the radar speed trailer, and they'll bring that out and put it in an area of concern. We don't have exclusive rights to that or anything, but they've been able to get it out pretty quickly when we've requested it. On several occasions, though, our LCSO deputies have collected speed data over a period of time in a specific area, and that data doesn't always support the complaint. And that could be for a number of reasons. As I think everyone's aware, driver behavior does change when they can see a vehicle there who might be monitoring them. But sometimes it's a perception issue as well. People feel that traffic is maybe moving faster than it actually is at times. So, like I said, the majority of the requests we get are for stop signs and speed bumps. But what people really want is speed reduction. These can have some impact on speed, but they're not always the most effective way to increase safety, which is really what we're trying to get after, and they can have unintended consequences. So stop signs are really for controlling traffic movement. They're not what we call traffic calming devices. Overuse can lead to reduced effectiveness when they are needed. So I know we've had this discussion on stop signs in the past, but if we're putting stop signs because people are speeding and we want to slow them down, there might be a better tool that would be more effective and keep stop signs a little bit more reserved for the times when they really need to stop, not just slow people down. Speed bumps are can be a good solution, but they can also slow down emergency response and hinder patient care, and they're hard on equipment. There are ways you can modify speed bumps to help with that, but then it also makes a way for people to kind of cheat the system and take advantage of that too. So each situation is unique, even though often it seems like it's a pretty standard thing. We really need to evaluate each one individually before a decision is made to select or install a traffic calming measure, whatever that is. And really we should be looking at multiple traffic calming measures, not just speed bumps. Just for a little background information, the Institute of Transportation Engineers defines a traffic calming as a combination of measures that reduce the negative effects of motor vehicle use, alter driver behavior, and improve conditions for non-motorized street users. And a lot of times these are used in downtown areas or where there's a lot of pedestrians, but they're also very commonly used in neighborhoods. And what I think the main thing we're hearing is people would like to alter driver behavior. Traffic calming consists of physical design and other measures put in place on existing roads to reduce vehicle speeds and improve safety for pedestrians and cyclists. So for example, vertical deflections, which include speed humps, speed tables, raised intersections, horizontal shifts, roadway narrowing, those are all intended to reduce speed and enhance the street environment. One thing I'll say about the narrowing, our streets we have a pretty wide street standard, and it's a trade-off. The more comfortable people feel with the wide open streets, the faster they're going to drive. The more uncomfortable it feels with narrow, especially with parking and narrower streets, the slower people will drive. Now that raises other concerns that may be safety concerns as well if you have parked vehicles and potential for kids to be darting out and things. So it all needs to be balanced. Some communities have traffic calming programs, which allow them to evaluate their requests they get against some defined criteria. And not all requests will meet the criteria and qualify as a candidate for a traffic calming measure. We've looked at the most closely is City of Albany's traffic calming program, which I provided as an example, and we can go into that in more detail. Actually, I have a separate set of slides if you really want to talk through that, if you want to, but we don't need to tonight. We just wanted to highlight that as their program is pretty extensive. It requires a study to document the extent of each issue, consider multiple options. It also requires an investment from the neighborhood to ensure the majority of the neighborhood is in support of the request and is willing to participate in the cost of the project. So their program is great in terms of being pretty thorough as far as a program goes and making sure that they've really looked at all the options. It does require a lot of time from staff and a lot of investment from the neighborhood. So we can, after the slide, if you want to discuss any or go into any more depth on any of these items, we can. But for recommendations, first we can recommend considering multiple traffic calming devices to change driver behavior in general, and not just go straight to speed bumps as the answer. They might be the answer, but there might be a better answer. A traffic calming program would require a significant amount of time and resources. Prior to taking the step of beginning to develop a full-scale traffic calming program, if that's the direction you want to go, we'd recommend staff or council consider purchasing or rental of equipment to collect data on speeds and traffic counts. This data would help provide information that would be helpful in the first steps of a process to determine whether there's a need for traffic calming measures. It's also equipment that could be put out, can can display or not display speeds. It can be used as a data collection, but also can be used as a traffic calming measure itself by providing feedback to drivers. We didn't get the number in here. We were hoping to fill in a number here. We think it was around $5,000 per unit for this equipment. And these can be moved around to different locations. But that would be our recommendation. If we want to move forward, those are some steps that could be taken. But we really wanted to get your feedback on whether you feel like this is something that you even want to have us pursue before we spend any more time on it. Or if you feel that the way we're handling these issues right now with enforcement and maybe some additional outreach and education, if we can look at doing some of those sorts of things, is the way to go. So, Kevin, do you want to add anything?
No, I would just say, having been involved early on with Albany, it's a lot of debate early on with traffic calming. The one thing I would say that you want to be very careful with is on collectors and arterials. Those are areas normally you don't want to see it. That's your emergency transportation routes. I will tell you that patients in ambulances, especially that has a back injury or something where they're in a lot of pain going over speed bumps, curse them like mad on it. And I've also had the pleasure when going in code 3 to a hospital in the back of an ambulance, and they missed one of the speed bumps going airborne in the back of the medic unit as well. So, but you know, there's pros and cons. There's other things, as Janelle mentioned, besides that. Any program we do, though, it's not something where you can just come in and without any study just put something in place. I think it would require some study. So far, I would say that a large portion of the areas when the deputies have gone out, and they've sat in areas where they're not really sitting there just to do, you know, they're kind of out of the view, just tracking. We haven't seen a real big speeding problem, and I think part of it is a lot of times is counts. And one of the reasons that Janelle mentioned, if anyone looked, she didn't mention this, but if you look at Albany's, we wouldn't even hit the criteria for Albany's with the traffic counts. Our streets just don't have those counts. So, we'd have to do modification and stuff if we were to look at that. So I don't think that there is a street now, even probably Millersburg Drive or Woods, that would meet the traffic counts. It would be difficult to meet the traffic counts, even if those were streets that would be considered for traffic calming.
And if you did want us to pursue something, we would definitely recommend not just adopting exactly what Albany
Yeah,
said.
you'd have to modify it.
Questions from council?
I personally think that we have the data collection equipment right now, and that's the people that are calling and complaining. I don't see why we would invest a bunch of money to be told the same thing, possibly, you know, depending on the numbers, like what you're saying are very low as far as the traffic flow because of our population as people on the street. From what I hear, it's repeat offenders. It's the same people doing the same thing, right? Yeah. To me, I would request or ask the sheriff's office if they can just sit at those places where there seems to be an issue and hand out tickets. Don't hand out warnings. I am not going to pretend like I don't drive faster than I should sometimes. I try not to do it in town, obviously. But I know what changes that when I know I'm going to get a ticket. To me, that's about the best traffic calming device, although I've never heard that term before. There is. But that's just my 2 cents. Again, I think it's repeat offenders, the same people. It's not a bunch of traffic where there's just a bunch of people going through here driving like mad. I think it's the same. I know of a couple of the vehicles that are repeat offenders. And I think that's what we're seeing. I think that the data collection equipment and at 5,000 per unit, I think we have that. I think it's the people in the community that are doing that right now. But again, I don't think it's, 50 vehicles in one area. I think it's probably the same 2 or 3 vehicles in one area. But
one of the things that data collection equipment does provide. So as Janelle mentioned, It's essentially a radar and LiDAR that will give you traffic counts. So it will track the number of units going through. It'll check the high speed and and the median speeds. So in almost every traffic calming, that's what they look at. It's one of the things the state's looked at. So yes, you may have one or two, but I mean, we have people coming in and they'll swear, Dave, that everyone there is driving 35 miles an hour in a 25. And the deputies will go out and we're not even close to that.
Right.
So yes, I think you're right on the others, but we do get a number of people calling, and they are certain that everyone driving through there is driving over the speed limit, and they'll go out and look, and we're not even, the median speed is probably 26, maybe 27, and
Right.
in a residential area, if that, and the numbers that we get going over are pretty low. So one of the things with that, if you wanted to consider it, it allows us to count that and take a look at it beforehand, without people necessarily knowing that it's there. Then we can put it into a mode and it'd be essentially the same as the signs that we have coming into town, on Millersburg Drive and Salem, and we'll tell them what the speed is and what they're at. And those are movable, so we can take and put it on any post, signpost or something, so we can move it throughout the area if we have a problem, in addition to having the deputies. So we can go in and, one of the things that helps us is we can go in and say, hey, do we really have a problem there, before we send a deputy out and have them sit there for a couple of hours to determine that, no, there's not. But if we do go out and say that, we can go out and put a unit up. We can say, yeah, there is. Here's the time that it's usually occurring. So if during this time, we could track it for a week. And if we see it's during that same time, we can let the deputy know, hey, here's where we're seeing this. They can go out and sit and hopefully then catch the individual versus not knowing for sure when that's necessarily occurring.
Well, see,
So
there you can change my mind with that. That's yeah. I mean, I could see where if we had the ability to have a piece of equipment where we can move around, where there's definitely seems to be more of an issue. I could see that. I guess I could see that. That'd be kind of a good tool to use, especially if you could narrow down the times that it seems to be happening, and then you could employ the sheriff's department to kind of take care of the problem at that point. I do have a question though. Does this equipment by chance record, so if it's someone not stopping at a stop sign, is there a camera that they can record this happening?
Not the unit we're talking about.
Not this equipment. I think there is some equipment out there that's fancier and can do more, but this will just be counting speed. And you're probably already aware of this, but we can't issue citations off of this type of data.
Yeah, I was just thinking that if there's a camera, I figured you probably couldn't do a citation deal because it's not monitored or calibrated, I'm assuming, or something like that, as far as like a intersection camera is.
I will share with you, each of you, just to be aware in case you take this route. We do have that problem quite regularly at Millersburg and Woods Drive. And there has probably over the last 3 months been 30 to 40 tickets written there. And I know the deputies go out there and almost every time they continue to see people. And I would think that people would be talking now, but I mean, they're still writing tickets every time they go out there and sit for a period of time and watch it.
Right.
Okay, any other comments from council? Scott?
Yeah, I think the way that we currently manage it, I think is kind of the way too. I don't think we really have I know there's issues in certain spots, and I'm with Dave as far as writing tickets in those areas. Seems like a lot of staff and resources that we would use to implement this type of program for something that isn't necessarily needed. So at this point.
John?
I agree with you, Scott. I agree with you, Dave. There's a handful, if not two handfuls of people. Probably can name the colors of their cars or pickups, and some of these problems can be fixed without a huge investment, I think. So I don't think we need the traffic calming devices to redesign the city. I think we need to do some stern enforcement and get the violators.
That tongue-in-cheek comment. How come everything costs $5,000? That number keeps popping up all over the place.
I think they know to be honest, if you want to know the truth behind it, it's because I think a lot of manufacturers know that's a level that you can go out, most cities can go out and purchase without having to go to competitive bid.
Ding, 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 ding.
By a more serious comment, I won't, the speed limit is 25. I will not drive 25 through a residential area. To me, it's too fast. And if you look at somebody who's driving 25, it looks to be too fast. But it is a speed limit, and it's probably okay in terms of safety factor. But that's what I believe what people are seeing. If you stand in my street out here and watch cars go by at 25, you'll shake your head, but it's 25. So I think that's part of the issue, is people that realize how fast 25 is. And I don't know what else to say. I mean, it is what it is. Some towns have taken down their traffic, the speed limit down to 20, probably because of that. I'm not advocating that, but that is one option. Having said all that, I'm not sure what else to do. I agree with Dave. There are some people who are repeat offenders all the time. Ask Don Miller about the woman in a Mustang he stopped.
You know, Jim, I deal with this too at work, and it is perception with, large vehicles, and the noise that they generate. And so there's kind of you always have to know your audience when you're out there in a big truck in somebody's neighborhood, because we're always looking for kids and trying to be aware of our surroundings. So perception too is part of the issue.
I was just getting ready to say that. I watched one of the garbage trucks go through the neighborhood, and you could swear that they were going 45 miles an hour. But I know better, and it's a big truck. It's really loud, and I guarantee you he was going 25 or less. And it just, same thing with a big diesel truck that's really loud versus a Honda Civic going down the street. It's just it's definitely perception on how fast they're going. I don't necessarily agree with the garbage truck going 25 through the street, because I don't think it can stop if a kid ran out, but that's just my 2 cents.
I agree.
I can share with you that an individual in an electric vehicle was yelled at for driving 20 on one of our local streets.
Yeah, that's my point.
Because they're going too fast, or because they're going too slow?
The guy yelled at him to slow down. He was doing 20.
So therein, I think, lies the key issue. It's perception, or our speed limit is too high. I'm not ready to go there, but it's at least perception. And I don't want to support, I don't care what we do, I don't want to support speed bumps. I think it's going the wrong direction. It causes much more hassle than it does maybe good. So at least law enforcement or other signaling devices, and I guess I'm not ready to go there yet.
Would council be interested if we can gather some data and just share with you what the data collection, it could be, one of the things that would be beneficial to give us some traffic. When we need traffic counts, we can go out and put that out to get traffic counts as well. Would you be interested in taking a look at what that would entail that could help us when we do get those? We can put something out and we can let the neighbors know. We can give them an actual printout. It goes to the, it's all stored on the cloud. So we can even have that then available and say, here's what we actually saw here. We had it set out here for this time period. It's most people wouldn't even know it was there unless we go out, but it would track. We can enter when we put it, and it would show that. It's something you might be interested in.
Is that
I'm definitely interested.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
Sorry. I'm definitely interested in that. To me, like I wasn't sold on data collection equipment at all. I kind of agree with Scott and John as far as it's just, it's not that big of a community yet, but at the same time, for that amount of money, if we're going to keep getting complaints like this and we just keep this cycle going, it'd be nice. I mean, how many times are we going to pay the sheriff's office to come sit out here at the wrong hours, right? It'd be nice to know, hey, this is when people are speeding through here. If you get the same people complaining, and just as a show to the community as a whole, we invested this money in this piece of equipment, but now we have answers to, no, this is actually what's happening. and we recorded it all. So maybe half those calls, or maybe even 30% of those calls might go away because you were able to provide them information. It shows you, nah, it's just actually your perception. It's not as bad as you might think it is. And then the other stuff maybe gets fixed because you're able to tell the sheriff's department, hey, look, this is when people are speeding. We want you to hand out tickets for when this time period, so we can put a stop to it. To me, a $5,000 price tag on that, it maybe isn't that steep. But again, that's my mind changing on the fly.
Well, and I don't want to see somebody get hurt without us responding. We need to respond with something that's logical to the public. So I wouldn't be opposed to having the data collection equipment and, like you say, Dave, providing it to the neighborhoods. I just don't want to see somebody get hurt. And I think it doesn't hurt to have that conversation with the garbage trucks and talk to them about perception. We can sure talk to them when they come out for their yearly rate increase.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, thanks. That's exactly what we were looking for. It's how we're communicating our responses. We don't want to staff, and I know council doesn't want to come across as unresponsive when people raise concerns, but want to make sure we were on track with how you wanted it to be handled. So we'll get more information on the equipment and bring that back to you.
Do you need to really do that? I mean, bring it back to us? I mean, if it's something around $5,000 plus or minus, so is council okay with doing this?
I'm okay with it, yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah, I'm good with it. The only other thing is bringing that resources out. I like the concept of it and the idea of it. How do you guys feel this would affect staff time? Monitoring these, setting these up.
I don't, from what we have heard, I don't think it takes a lot of time. You go out and put it up. It's going to be collecting all the data on the web. So we don't have to do anything. We go out other than placing it. And then it sends all of the stuff. It's sending it cellularly to a site that's tracking it. So it will tell us the time and the date when it's recording, and we can tell what's taking place.
Okay.
I believe there is, in addition to the equipment, there's a subscription to the site that we have to get. And really how much time it takes too would depend on how much we need to move it around. If it's sitting in one spot for quite a while, it's not taking any of our time. We're just monitoring the data. If we want to move them every other day or every week, that's going to be a lot more. But that's probably not how we would use it. We'd probably collect data for a week or two, and then move to another.
Probably collect data for a week and then turn it on to a reporting mode.
Mm-hmm.
You might want to collect data for a week, let the sheriff go out for a couple of days, run radar, and then turn it on to. If you can't go out and get the offenders, and then turn it on for the rest to see.
I personally like the ones that flash when you're going over the speed limit, so you can smile when you go by.
Is that what that is?
Yeah. Smile, Dave.
Okay, so Janelle, go do it.
Okay.
I assume you have some way of securing these things in such a way that they don't be vandalized or stolen.
Yeah, no more risk than any other traffic sign or anything else.
Okay.
Maybe we get two. We get one to make sure the other one doesn't get stolen.
Just put a camera out, somewhere, so if they do steal it, we can see who it is.
All right. Are we done with it? Are we finished with that one?
Yes.
I don't believe we have any public yet, so there's no public closing comments. Any closing council comments or staff?
I would just mention they just updated the perimeter. They changed the name of the Beachy fire to the Sandy Am fire. I think it'll probably, I'm not sure the paper got it. I think it's more of a complex of fires, but it's they said 131,000 acres.
So do we know if downtown Mill City is under fire or not?
Well, we saw a video of it earlier today from last night from Marion County Sheriff's. It looked like on Gates. If you look at, if we pull it, let's see if it, let me see if I, let's, the site's been going up and down today with regards to it. So let's refresh it and see. Looking at where the fire was, it looked like it is throughout all of Mill City to me.
I was told sorry.
Go ahead. I haven't heard anything specific.
I was told by my sister who has a client that lives up there. They just built a house. She said that the whole city's gone.
Wow.
I would not be surprised from what I could see, knowing the fires that I've been on and stuff and that area. When you get a wind event like this through a canyon down slope like that, I would not be surprised to see that Frank, you know, that I don't know, but I would be surprised if we don't have significant. I told Janelle this morning, I wouldn't be surprised if we find that there's significant loss of structures and probably some loss of life.
She was actually an attorney too for us, so maybe if you know any attorneys that live in Mill City or just built a house there, but she called her and told her that the whole city was gone.
Wow.
And I have an employee that lives up there, and he thinks his house is gone. But I did talk to Prattam Co-op this morning, and there's that meat market, Gene's Meat Market, is gone, but the gingerbread house as of 6 hours ago and the gas station across the street were okay.
Did they say
it had.
That's turning right to go right into Lyons, going to Ferris Lumber.
Yep.
Yeah, that's 5th Street, and from what we were seeing earlier, it looked like that there wasn't fire in that area. It kind of came across to the diagonal, going kind of running off to the southeast. But the road between Lyons and Mill City, there on the south side of the North Sandy Am River, all of that shows fire all along there, from Millersburg down to just about into Lyons.
Did you hear if Ferris caught on fire?
I have not heard.
Haven't. We deal with them every day, but we obviously aren't going up there. We were up there Saturday, but that was our last haul.
Yeah,
I heard Frank Lumber caught on fire in the pellet mill up there.
Yeah, I heard that.
Wow.
Oh.
Those
are facilities that I can tell you are the lumber facilities, because they have so much sawdust and stuff. You get embers in there. If they didn't get crews up there on those right away, they're hard to stop.
Won't they have the best chance though with as far as their fire suppression systems in place, or no?
It really depends where the fire starts and what type of roof and stuff that they have. The problem is, in this type of fire, if they're on their own system, possibly, but you can get a fire starting on the exterior, and by the time it gets inside, it'll overrun your sprinklers.
Yeah. Have you heard anything about I heard there's a concern with the two fires merging together or something like that?
I told Janelle this morning I would not be surprised to see it. On a map we were looking at earlier, this is just the NC map now, so it's not showing the other. I was estimating they were about six miles apart. And the distance between them is the old B&B. So those of you gone over 22 recently know all of the, how much of that, the dead and down trees that are still in there. So there is stuff to burn. It probably won't be real hot in that area because a lot of it's down and dead story. But there is fire. So the B&B complex, I was up there right after it came through there, and the guardrails were molten pools of. That's how hot it came through there. All the guardrails were just molten aluminum on the ground and stuff, and asphalt. There was areas where there was no asphalt; it was just rock. It got hot enough that the asphalt burned on there. We did see on something that the Gate School was destroyed. Grade school was gone. But just haven't really heard much more outside of that. And I'm really surprised. They're doing, evidently they're keeping media out of that area. And with social media, I'm really surprised that we haven't heard more on, what is and isn't destroyed. So. probably hear more tomorrow.
Well, I spent a lot of time up there with the sheriff's office for 5.5 years. A lot of time in Mill City, Gates, Lyons. Know a lot of people up there. Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin and Janelle, both for the meeting and back materials and information provided. Good job. Council, anything else?
Mayor, I do have one thing just to remind everyone. Your next council meeting, you will be having a public hearing on the Land Use Development Code. So that was approved to be forwarded on to council. So we'll be getting stuff to you on that. So you will have our next meeting that will include a public hearing on that. So we'll try to keep other things to a minimum for that meeting. And we probably, I'm hopeful to have a work session this month and to go over, it's been on the list for 9 months. Well, I was hoping to have it done before COVID hit. I'd like to spend the work session to go through the proposed changes to our employee handbook based on the updates that CIS is recommending.
That's on the 22nd, probably.
That would be our work session item
Okay.
for that.
Get it on our calendars then. Okay. All right. Unless we have anything else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 8:08. This is a record for us for some time now. All right. Meeting adjourned. Thank you,
Right.
everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Forrest.
All right, thank
See
you.
ya.